think it's working. Enable comments. Okay. Wow, that's it. So now we're live. Okay. And that's it. I just check something here. It's nothing. Okay. Tell me Instagram. Okay, Instagram. And I'm going to change this account. Let's go with Alfredo. Okay, and go home. Okay, if I click here, let's go with Alfredo. I think I managed to do this. Okay. Hello guys, good evening everyone. And here we go. So first of all, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Alfredo, for those who don't know me, for those who might be coming to this web channel and who don't yet know me. Okay, so my name is Alfredo and I'm going to be your guide on this tour here in our channel called Destination Fluency. Okay, so this is a channel. It was designed to help you improve your fluency, improve your listening skills. Okay, so for the next hour, I'm going to be your host here. I'm going to be your guide. And tonight, what I would like to do is this. I would like to share with you. I would like to use a tool with you that I think can really enhance your listening skills and your speaking skills, your fluency in general. So I created this video. Okay, it's about a fictitious character, a kid born in Poland, who was only 6 years old when the Second World War, broke out in Europe. And it's a fictitious story. Nothing that goes on here actually happened to this guy because, as I said, I made up this character. But I want to put a disclaimer there because over the years I've learned from some of my students that are more sensitive that they thought the story was a bit too sad, and they feel a little bit sad, upset for the fate of these boys in the story, which I think it's not that bad because the story in the end, it's got a kind of such a bad end, it's got, I wouldn't say it's a happy ending, but it could be worse because after all we're talking about the war. So but my objective with this exercise is to teach you guys, is to review the simple past with you through a very catchy story. It's just a story that I think it catches your attention, and it's a story that allows you to use all the important grammatical structures for past simple, namely the past simple form of the verb to be, the verb dare to be. We're going to see regular and irregular verbs and how we use the auxiliary did in questions and answers when we talk about this story. Okay, so without any further delay, let's jump in and start working on this. Okay, so I'm going to start by sharing my screen with you. And right now you can see the story. Okay, so let's get started. Alexander Elderman was born in Malbork, Poland in 1933. He lived in a big house in the center of the city with his parents and two brothers. Okay, now for those of you watching this over on Instagram, I want to apologize to you because I know that because we got this thing with Instagram that you can only broadcast it vertically. I know that we're gonna be. Was born in Malbork, Poland. I mean, you're gonna be missing out a little bit. Okay, so I'm gonna try to monitor my screen so that I can make sure that as I speak, as I go over the exercise, you can follow it. Okay, so we got to this point here. We've already covered the first part of the story, and now we've got this exercise here, which is basically a completion exercise. Okay, it's a listening exercise, which based on the story, okay, based on what you understood, you can follow me reconstructing the story. Okay. I'm just gonna close and reopen this to make sure that everybody can see it. Okay, so there it is. I just have a little challenge here because I can see that on Instagram it's not 100% centralized. Let me see if I can move this. I can't, but it's okay. What else can I do? I think I can do something here. If I move it to the side like this, then I can make sure that the Instagram viewers will be able to see it as well. Okay. Yes, so what I'm gonna do is this. When that happens, I'm gonna put this right here in the middle. Okay, and right here in the middle of the screen. Okay, so anyway, without further ado, let's go and complete this. So Alexander Elderman was born in Poland, in Malbork, Poland in 1933. And he in a big house in the center of the city with his blah, blah, blah. So think about this, guys. So at this point, what I want you to do is this. I want you to kind of follow me. Because, you see, we need a verb here. We need a verb in the past. And the only verb that completes this, let me put this right in the middle here. Okay, is the verb to live. So he lived in a big house in the center of the city with his and two. Okay, so, well, parents, it's implicit that we normally have two parents, right? But brothers, you can have 2, 3, and 4. So that's why we have the number there. Okay, and that's the first part of the exercise. Okay, right. And once we've done this, okay, a new icon, a new symbol appears there to let you know that there's more exercise. Okay, and then what I created here, okay, is a sequence of question and answers, which you can then work with, so that you can practice with this. Okay, so let's have a look at this first answer, the first question here. Was Alexander born in France? And what I'm doing at this point, when I'm doing this, it's because I want you to practice with this structure. Okay, I want to see if you're comfortable with the verb there to be. So here we go. Was Alexander born in France? I put this option here in purpose because I want to know if you still confuse, okay, the verb to be born, which is an independent verb because it's got the verb to be in it. It doesn't require the auxiliary did. So the right answer here, from a structural point of view, would either be yes, he was, or no, he wasn't. In this case, we know that it was not in France, so it's a negative answer. So our two choices would be no, he didn't, or no, he wasn't. But notice that we have the verb to be in the question. meaning that the right answer is no, he wasn't. So let's move forward. How about this? We're going to apply the same principle. Was Alexander born in Germany? Well, we know that we're not going to use this because that from a structural point of view is completely wrong. And then we know that the answer was not Germany. So no, he wasn't. He wasn't born in Germany. So where was he born after all? And then here, notice that once again, I offered you 3 different answers to really test you. For instance, the second one, we should eliminate from our choices right away because it doesn't include the verb to be, and the verb to be is part of the structure here. So, and then it also tests you whether you remember that the verb to be form, the form of the verb to be for the subject pronouns he, she, it is in fact was. So if we apply this, we know that the right answer is the first one. Where was he born? Well, he was born in Marburg. Okay, now I want to attract your attention to highlight something to you here. So let's have a look at this. Now pay attention to this. Here we go. The auxiliary did appears because this time we're using a different verb, the verb to live, which is not an independent verb like the verb to be. So what does that mean? What does that mean to us? Well, it means that we need an auxiliary verb when we ask a question, and we're going to need that if the answer is negative. Okay, so did he live in a hotel? Well, we saw a big house there in the film, in the picture. We know it was not a hotel. So this part of the sentence here, right, tells us that this is incorrect, that he did not live in a hotel. So this answer, involving a hotel is not appropriate. So here we go. Did he live in a hotel? No, he didn't. He didn't live in a hotel. Did he live in an apartment? Well, we know it was a house, so it's the same principle, the same answer. No, he didn't. So then, well, it was not a hotel. It was not an apartment. So where did he live? Well, and then we have the right answer down here. Well, he lived in a big house. Okay. And then we start exploring the people. I mean, we want to find out now. We want to review this idea because we know that Alexander Eldman, he lived with some people. So, but these people that we're talking about, I mean, are we talking about his grandparents? Did he live? So notice that we are repeating the same structure. Did he live with his grandparents? And we know the answer. The answer is parents and brothers. So this is not the right answer. So grandparents is not the right answer. So did he live with his grandparents? Well, no, he didn't. No, he did not. Did he live with his friends? No, he did not. So, who did he live with? Well, we know the answer. He lived with his parents and 2 brothers. Okay, so then at this point, I would like to make a comment. For those of you who think this sounds a little bit repetitive, perhaps, I would like to remind you that actually this is a very good exercise for you because it allows you to repeat, and by repeating you consolidate that structure. So let me say that again. for those of you who are watching this and are thinking, oh my God, this is repetitive. Well, if it's repetitive, it might be repetitive because you're a master of this structure and you really don't need practice with it. So you need something more advanced. And then in this case, I would have to say to you, well, if you're watching this video right now, you're very welcome here, and I appreciate you being here, but be patient, because the way I'm conducting this exercise is a way in which I'm trying to tailor, okay, the explanations and the speed and the dynamics of the exercise for those people who are still struggling with the structure of simple past in English. They haven't mastered yet how to use the auxiliary did, the difference between using the verb to be as an auxiliary verb and using a different auxiliary verb like did for the other verbs. Okay, so be patient, bear with me, and you know, and even if you feel that this is not too difficult for you, this is an opportunity for you to also consolidate this structure, you know, to really make sure that you have no doubts, that you're 100% comfortable with it. Okay, so let's advance. Let me just turn the film back on. And here we go.
It was a nice house. There were 4 bedrooms, a very large kitchen, and a very big backyard where he played with his brothers and friends in the summer. His mother was a maths teacher, and she worked in the school across the street from their house. The school was the largest building in the city. It was a magnificent building.
Okay, and then we get to this point. So, first of all, let's take a look at this text here. We're talking about a house, right? So well, it was a nice house. Now I want you to pay attention to the verb there to be. Okay, let me type this thing here. There to be. Okay? Notice the first particle of this verb is already here. Okay. The next thing I would like you to pay attention is to the fact that we have number 4 here. So that's plural. So what should we do? Should we say there was or there were? Well, the right answer is there were. There were 4 bedrooms, a very large kitchen, and a very big backyard where he played. See, in the backyard, Alexander played with his brothers and friends in the summer. Notice that, imagine you were confused and you were not sure what verb to put there, okay? And you thought, oh, okay, let's try to use the verb to work. From a grammar standpoint, you could, you know, because you could use a verb like the verb to work, and the kids, suppose they worked with their parents there, I don't know, with some kind of a construction work, I don't know. But that's not the idea, because we're talking about Alexander and his brothers, and we're talking about the summer. So it makes more sense to think that the kids played there in the backyard. Well, if you have a problem with the meaning of this word, this is a moment where I could stop and perhaps use Google Images to help you understand the meaning of this word. Okay, so let's go with Google Images, okay, and type here the word backyard. So what is a backyard? Well, a backyard, I'm not going to translate, I'm just going to show you a picture. Well, it's the area outside the house. Okay, so the area outside the house where kids play, you know, it's an open space, usually with a lot of you know, space for kids to play. In this case, we have a lawn, like a patch of a grass. Okay. And then back to the exercise. So in their backyard. Okay, Alexander and his brothers. They played in the summer. Okay, and then we we start talking about Alexander's mother. So his mother, a maths teacher. A lot of people might be tempted, when they think, okay, she was a teacher, right? So she worked. But you see, we have a problem with the verb to work in this case because we could say, well, she worked in the school, she worked a lot, she worked very hard. But we have the job itself there. And when we describe a person's job, in fact, we don't use the verb to work. We use the verb to be. She was a teacher. You see, she was not a doctor. She was not a dentist. She was not a nurse. She was not a businesswoman. No, she was a maths teacher. Okay? And then we can use the verb to work in the next line. She worked in the school across the street from their house. And at this point, because I want you to see the benefit of working with a platform like this, with an exercise like this, is that at this point, what you can do is this: you can go back and listen to it again in case you're not so confident, in case you feel that there's something missing, that you missed a part of the story. So let's play it again. Here we go.
There were 4 bedrooms, a very large kitchen, and a very big backyard where he played with his brothers and friends in the summer. His mother was a maths teacher, and she worked in the school across the street from their house. The school was the largest building in the city. It was a magnificent building.
So, you see, let's open that thing again. So his mother, so you probably picked this up this time. So his mother was a maths teacher and she worked in the school across the street from their house. So the school was the largest building in the city and it was a magnificent building. Okay? And then once we've done that, we can click on continue. Click on continue.
His father was a successful...
But actually, before that, we can once again go over some
local
questions.
businessman. He owned a bakery. Everyone building.
Okay, now let's open the questions and answers. Let's have a look at this. So, as I did before, this time, once again, what I would like you to do is to feel more and more comfortable with the 2 different structures, past simple with the verb to be and past simple using the auxiliary did. So let's think about that. Was it a nice house? Notice the structure. Notice the verb. Notice the verb to be structure here. Was it a nice house? Well, yes, it was. How many bedrooms were there in that house? There was or there were? Remember that we used there was for singular, there were for plural. So here we go. There were 4. Was the kitchen very small? Well, actually it wasn't, because remember it was a very large kitchen. So the answer here is no, it wasn't. What was the kitchen like? So notice that when we ask a question like this, what was the kitchen like? Okay, it's very important that we understand that this like here is not a verb like the verb to like when you say I like pizza. So this is more like a preposition that we use when we are comparing something like this. Okay, so just suppose, you're talking about the kitchen in your house and you're comparing to the kitchen in your grandmother's house. And you can say, well, the kitchen in my house is just like the kitchen in my house is like the kitchen in my mother's house. So the kitchen in my mother's house is like the kitchen in my grandmother's house. So it means they're very similar. So that's the kind of use that we have for the word like that we are applying here. It's the same use. Anyway, so what was the kitchen like? Was it like this? Was it like this? Or was it like that? Okay? And then notice again that we're talking about one kitchen, the kitchen in his house. And notice that we're using the verb to be in that form, the singular form. So what does that mean? Well, we're going to need that kind of structure in the answer. So that's why the right answer is here. So it was a large kitchen. Okay? Anyway, let's advance a bit more. So was there a backyard in that house? Well, remember where the kids played? Well, but notice that I made this question up. I created this question because I wanted you to have an opportunity to practice with the verb there, to be. So was there? And we know the answer is yes. And then we have two choices. So yes, there were, or yes, there were, or yes, there was. Well, remember that we have only one backyard in the story. It's one house, one backyard, singular. So the right answer should be yes, there was. And then we're talking about the backyard. Pay attention to the structure. Okay, so we're talking about the backyard. And was the backyard important for the kids? Well, remember that they played in the backyard in the summer? Well, so it was important for them, right? Okay, so once again, if we pay attention to the structure, we know that this sentence here is not right because we have the verb to be in the plural form. And so the right answer is yes, it was. Okay, and then we get to this point here. Did Alexander and his brothers work in the backyard? Well, we know they did something different. The action was not the action to work, it was something different. So we know that the answer is going to be a negative one. Okay? And then remember, we have the auxiliary did in the question, which means that in a negative answer, we're going to need the auxiliary to form a negative sentence. So then the sentence becomes, no, they didn't. Okay, so if they didn't work in the backyard, your next question should be, so what did they do in the backyard? Did they study in the backyard? No, they played with their friends in the backyard. And then we get to this point. Remember that I told you that when we talk about somebody's job, somebody's profession, we use the verb to be. Because, for example, I am a teacher. This is my job. To describe my job, I use the verb to be. In the past, we use the verb to be in the past. So, was his mother a doctor? Okay, once again, we're going to strike out this answer here because this answer here uses the auxiliary did, and we know this auxiliary is not necessary here. So, was his mother a doctor? No, she was not. Okay, so I think that at this point, 27 minutes into the class, it's time for me to stop babysitting you, okay, and going a little bit faster so that we can cover more material. So from now on, what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to go a little bit faster. I'm going to read and complete the exercises with you. And later, what I would like you to do is this. Whenever you feel a little bit lost, since today is a live session, but this video in its entirety and then parts of it will be posted in this channel. So that means you can watch it again, and then when you have doubts, you can go back, play that part of the story again, and then complete it yourself. Just another disclaimer here. This live session today is being broadcast on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. But on Instagram, because the broadcasting must be vertical, I'm very limited to how much of my screen I can show. So as we go along, I've been trying to shift things around. Okay, so for those following the class on Instagram, I just want to tell you guys that you're very welcome here. I want to apologize to you for any imperfections on my part, because it's the first time that I'm broadcasting on our 3 channels. But I wanted the people on Instagram, those who decided to follow our class today, to have access to it as well. But I just want you guys to know that feel free to, if you feel more comfortable going to Facebook or going to YouTube, to watch it there too, because on those platforms I have a widescreen format which allows the viewers to really see everything very clearly. Okay, so I just wanted to apologize about that. Okay, having said that, let me just conclude this. Back to Alexander's mother. Was she a businesswoman? Well, no, she was not. She was a teacher. And then comes this question: what did she do? So when somebody asks you a question, what do you do? Well, I'm a doctor. What do you do? I'm a dentist. What do you do? I'm a student. Well, in this case, we know she was a teacher. And then, then we're going down memory lane here, because whenever I do this exercise with my students, it's funny because sometimes they focus so much on the use of past simple, they forget some details of the story. But anyway, let's see if you remember. Did she teach English? No, she did not. Did she teach German? No, she did not. So do you remember what she taught? What did she teach? Well, she taught maths. She taught maths. And did she work at home? No. We didn't have online classes or private classes, for that matter, in those days. So, no, she did not work at home. So then there's one more question. Did she work at university? No, she did not. So where did she work? Well, she worked in the school across the street from their house. That's where she worked. Okay, so then let's continue.
His father was a successful local businessman. He owned a bakery. Everyone respected and admired him. He was a gentle and kind man. They were a very happy family.
Okay, and now we have this section here about Alexander's father. So let me try and center this the best way I can. Okay. Yeah, I think that way, I think everybody, even the Instagram viewers, will be able to see it. Okay, so here we go. It's about Alexander's father this time. The information is about Alexander's father.
But in 1939, when Alexander was only a happy family.
Okay, so let me try again. I think it's better if I put it right here. I'm just thinking about the guys. Once again, I apologize. Whenever I do that, when there's this pause, it's because I'm adjusting the screen so that the Instagram viewers are taken into considerations. You know, I'm just adjusting the screen a little bit so they can see as much as possible as well. Okay, so here we go. His father, we're talking about Alexander's father. See, Alexander's father, he was not a teacher. Okay, we know that. So we're going to use the verb to be to describe his job, his profession. So he was a successful local businessman. He owned a bakery and everyone respected and admired him. He was, singular. He was. They is the plural form that we use for a group of people. So they were. Alexander, his father, his mother, everybody. So they were a very happy family.
But in 1939, when Alexander was only 6 years old, Germany invaded Poland. It was the beginning of the Second World War.
Okay, and then we get to this point. So they were a very happy family. We learned that in the previous part of the story, right? Alexander's father was a successful local businessman. Everybody respected and admired him. His mother was a math teacher. She worked just across the street from their house, and they were a very happy family. But then, in 1939, what happened? When Alexander, 6 years old. Remember that when we talk about age in English, we need to use the verb to be. So when Alexander was only 6 years old, Germany, blah, 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 Poland. Think about this. Think about these two verbs and trying to remember the pictures in the story. Which one makes more sense to you? Well, it's this one, right? So Germany invaded Poland. And this invasion represented what? It represented the beginning. It was the beginning of the Second World War.
German planes flew over their city and dropped bombs. One hit the school and killed many people. Alexander's mother died in the attack. Another bomb fell near their bakery, and it partially destroyed their business.
Okay, so now we get to this point in the story in which, at this point, we learn more about the details of the war, of the invasion, of the destruction, and everything. Okay? And so, basically, German planes, what do planes do? Well, they fly. In the past, the flies flew. They flew over their city and they dropped bombs. One of these bombs hit the school and did what to people? Well, it killed many people. And killed many people. Alexander's mother, well, she died in the attack. Another bomb fell near their bakery and it partially destroyed their business.
They were very sad.
And at this point, what I would like to do is to stop this video because today is our first time doing this. I don't think we're going to have enough time to cover everything. But I don't want to waste this opportunity to show you a little bit of how we can now use a mind map to reconstruct this story. Okay, and today I'm going to start showing you how we can use the map to reconstruct a story. Okay? So as you can see now in the middle, right in the center of the screen, you have the boy's name, Alexander Elderman. And then from this point on, we're going to start reconstructing the story. Okay, and as I go about typing some words here, I would like you to think. Right, just give me 1 second because I need to adjust one small thing here. I think this should do the trick. Okay, so back to the construction of the map. There's one more thing here that I need to adjust. Okay, here we go. Because we're going to concentrate on the map only. Okay, here we go. So back to Alexander Elderman. Now, the first word I'm going to type is the word born, because I want this to remind you of the verb to be born. Okay, and when I say that, okay, Alexander Elderman, at some point in his life, he was born. Do you remember when Alexander was born? Well, he was born in 1933. Okay, by just reconstructing this part of the story, what you're doing is this. You're practicing with the verb to be, and you're also practicing with the pronunciation of ears. How do we pronounce ears in English? Well, we break them into two parts. We read the first one, and then we read the second one. So this ear should be read like this. He was born in 1939. So we know when he was born. But do you remember where? Well, he was born in a city called Malbork. So he was born in Malbork. And that's a city in Poland. Okay? And then when we put this together, right, we can say this. Alexander Elderman was born in Malbork, in Poland. Oops, I made a mistake here. Let me fix this. He was born in Malbork, in Poland, in 1933. Okay? Right. Well, I don't know how much you remember at this point, but I'm going to write to you here the next keyword, which is going to be the verb to live. He lived. Remember that when I asked questions, I played around with some crazy ideas like he lived in a hotel, he lived in an apartment, and so on, just for us to practice with the verb to be and with the auxiliary did. Right? Okay, so then, look, Alexander Elderman. Let's try to remember where he lived. Okay, well, first I'm going to write here the keywords big house, just to help you remember this. Okay, so we know that Alexander lived in a big house. Okay, and the next thing we're going to try to remember is this. Where was this big house? Do you remember where the big house was? Well, the big house was in the center of the city. That's where the big house was. Okay, so let's recap, because what I want you to understand at this point is that my objective with the map is to give you an opportunity to reconstruct the story, reuse all the keywords, the vocabulary, and the key structures, because this can and will have a direct impact on your fluency, because now you're no longer just watching. You're no longer just an observer. No, now you participate. You're part of the story. I mean, you're part of the exercise. You reconstruct the story. Okay? And then, right? Let's just put all these things together. Okay, so what I usually advise my students to do at this point is to take a break, take a break, stop a while, look back to the map and ask yourself, okay, now the information is there. Can I navigate the map? can I reconstruct the story? And then you do exactly that. Okay, so you collapse the nodes to the earlier level, and then you open one by one. Okay, so you start with the born node, and you go like this. Okay, all right, so I can do this. I'm talking about Alexander Elderman. So he was born in 1933, and he was born in Malbork, Poland. And that's it. And then I take the next step. Okay, and I know that he lived in a big house in the center of the city. I know that this big house was in the center of the city. Okay? And at this point, there's one more thing that I want to kind of show you and highlight it to you and really encourage you to do. I want to encourage you to really use this because I think it's a very powerful tool. Okay, let me go ahead. I like to change this central node color because I don't know, I think the yellow it signals something like an alert. Be alert to the story. I don't know. Later on, when you start using the map, if you don't like, feel free to, of course, adapt to your preferences and use a different color. Okay? But anyway, having said that, what I would like to do now is to show you a very powerful tool that is available here in this application that I use for mind map, which is a note-taking tool. Okay, so when I select a node, like the central node here, I can add text to it. Okay, and then basically what happens is that another window, kind of a side window opens, and this side windows allows you to write text, to write longer sentences and reconstruct the story basically in writing. And I think this is very cool. It's a very powerful tool. Okay, so what I would like to do now is to drag this a little bit. So once again, taking into consideration the Instagram viewers, okay, make sure that everybody gets the picture. Okay, so as I was saying earlier, so when I come over here, I could make a note about Alexander Elderman. So here we go. I'm gonna, based on the nodes that I put on the screen, I'm gonna reconstruct the story. Okay, so I'm gonna say that Alexander was born in Malbork, Poland, in 1933. That's the first sentence, okay? Which covers the first note. And then we jump to the next note, in which we describe where he lived. Okay, and then I'm going to say something like this. Just a second. I need to adjust this one more time. Put this over here. I think that should do the trick. Okay, so back to what I was saying earlier. The next thing I'm going to do is this. So he lived. Okay, so he lived in a big house in the center of the city. So Alexander was born in Malbork, Poland in 1933, and he lived in a big house in the center of the city. Okay, and basically that's it. With this, at least I exposed you to how I'm gonna be using the mind map to help you once you've watched and read parts of the story and did the completion exercises, how we can use all that knowledge, put it together, reconstruct the story, and then practice with your fluency. Okay? And oops, my apologies. Bad navigation here on my part. Okay, so here I am back. Okay. My dear viewers, my dear audience, I would like to thank you very much for those of you who stayed watching this live with me. I would like to apologize because I know that it must have been a live full of little imperfections here and there, because after all, I'm doing this test. I'm broadcasting it live on YouTube, on Instagram, and Facebook. And there are limitations because on YouTube and Instagram, as I said earlier, we can broadcast wide, whereas on Insta it's vertical, and then it really messes up, because if I were using just a camera, that would not be a problem. But I'm using my screen. I'm sharing my screen as well. I'm kind of showing the mind map here, even on Instagram as well, because I really wanted the Instagram viewers to have everything that people on YouTube and on Facebook are having access to. Anyway, I know it's not perfect, but it was a learning experience for me too. So I would encourage you to look on the bright side, cut me some slack, and think, well, the worst case scenario, even if I missed something because I couldn't see, the screen was messed up. It was an online class about past simple, completely in English. There was no translation. So in the worst case scenario, it was a good listening exercise to you. Okay. So that's it. That's it for tonight. Okay. I've been here since about 9 o'clock. Yeah, according to my app here, I've been here at least from the very moment I started streaming. I've been here for about 1 hour and 26 minutes. But as a class, really, when I really started exploring the Alexander Elderman story and the exercises and the page that I created for this, well, in that case, I've been here for about 15 minutes. Okay? I hope to see you again in our next live. There will be one more tomorrow and the day after tomorrow as well, and hopefully I will find a way to fix the Instagram thing. Thank you again. See you in our next live. Bye for now. Good night. Thank you again. See you in our next live. Bye for now. Good night.